Hello and welcome. Today we will be talking about life review. And to be particular, we will be discussing life review for seniors. Life review is a very important therapy for spiritual, mental, and emotional care. I will be talking about life review process with John. Of course, that is not his real name, but he is a resident of the long-term care facility where I minister. My choice process for John's life review is the need to cope with the loss and the need to be useful. Friends, John grew up in a strict, disciplined family that valued hard work, religion, and education. He grew up in the farm, learned to operate farm equipment as early as age 14. He worked hard in the farm, keeping his Christian faith alive while remaining focused on education. Of course, his hard work is attributed to his Christian faith as taught in texts like Proverbs 12. Whoever works with his hand will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuit lacks sense. We can also find this in 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 6, which says, "It is the hard-working farmer who ought to have the first share of the crop." John graduated in high school and proceeded to the university to study education. He became a teacher and finally a high school principal, a position he held to retirement. And while wondering what to do with all the time and strength that he still had, he decided to gather a few like-minded community members to start a fire department in their community. The department grew and established itself and has become one of the local fire departments in the region today, being funded and overseen by the regional district. John arrived in the long-term care facility 2 years ago, and our first encounter is hard to forget. While doing my pastoral visitation to the residents, I noticed this fine man wearing full suit and tie, commanding everybody around. He did not want to see anyone loitering in the hallway. He was commanding the residents, their visitors, including family members, care aid workers, and nurses to clear the hallway and get into their rooms. You will realize that this is a typical administrator. They're always trying to tell people what to do, or a principal wanting students to get in class and study. He also went around, sometimes intruding other people's spaces, checking and clearing hazards. Again, you will realize that this is a typical character of firefighters. They are always obsessed with safety. And in this small, humble community, John is already performing community safety. When I asked him for a few minutes of his time, he told me he had none and went ahead to enlist the items he had to complete. It was Wednesday afternoon, and he had roughly 10 items, most of which were reports to be completed by 5 p.m. Then he had to go home, have dinner, and head straight to the fire hall for practice. His day would come to an end at 11:30 or midnight, and the rest of his week was taken. So he had no time for me until maybe Sunday. Now, you're already beginning to realize that with such a character, not many workers were comfortable working with John because he never liked to be told what to do. Instead, he wanted people to do what he said. Again, you can see where this comes from. This is a teacher and a fire captain, a combination of two personalities that are well educated and endowed with authority. This made helping him very challenging. After trying several failed attempts to meet him, I finally figured out something. I approached him as a firefighter and spoke highly of the services that he had given the community, the versatility of the firefighter, courtesy of years of difficult training, the lives and property saved during his career, the firefighter pride, and I crowned this by giving him a firefighter hat and a challenge coin. Then I mentioned his university teachers are really highly educated people and highly respected. And this is the first time I saw a smile in his face. He accepted to talk with me there and then. I got into John's mind and heart through peer support. Being with him as a colleague and talking about all these nostalgic activities and moments. And I tell you, we clicked well ever since, and I've always had our spiritual conversation, and I tell you, that relationship was harmonious. After bonding, I quickly took John through a spiritual care plan, checking on how he ended up in the facility, his religious background, community support, his coping mechanism, and his way forward. In the process, I found out that his childhood Christian foundation had remained with him. But immediately after his wife's death, he just found himself in faith crisis. Secondly, he opened up to me that he had been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and lately dementia. Of course, I'm also integrated into the system, so I'm allowed to access some of this information. Another thing that came out is that John does not have a member of his family within the community, so there is a family disconnection. Also, he doesn't get a lot of friends and colleagues visiting him, of course, due to his personality and mental health condition at this time. And so, John is struggling with loneliness. His coping mechanism is physical fitness activities. He carried some small, lightweight equipment into his room, and he enjoys standing and walking. Actually, John has a tracking watch and is obsessed with making so many steps every day. When I asked John what his main areas of struggle are, he expressed discomfort in having a life where no one listens to him and instead everyone telling him what to do, when to do it, time to eat, take his meds, and even sleep. He likes his freedom to go wherever he wants at any time. He also believes that he still has good memory to track his daily routines, which is, of course, not true due to dementia. He is also struggling with loneliness and he misses his staff meetings and firefighter practice every once in a week with colleagues. He misses the school bell and pager sound. In our spiritual conversation, I realized that his faith crisis is as a result of death of his wife. With a lot of pain, he confessed that all along in his career, he postponed time with his family and thought he would have enough of it, especially with his wife, after retirement. Unfortunately, his wife died shortly after. He also confessed that he prioritized work and community service over his family, so he did not bond well with his children. He is guilty of not being involved in the life of his children, which according to him is why they have abandoned him. He is asking for reconciliation and opportunity to sit down with his children and rewrite his will. Of course, this calls for pastoral counseling and a sacrament of reconciliation. Let's talk about theological reflection. John is a very educated man whose brain can still hold and reflect so much. Now that we've bonded holistically, I will open up a theological engagement with him. but be sensitive to his dementia condition in a way of being conscious on when to stop. Our discussion will, of course, feature verses that talks about suffering of a righteous man. One good example is Job 13 verse 15, which says, "Though he slays me, yet will I trust in him, but I will maintain mine own ways before him." I will also talk about the philosophy of life. For example, this illustration here, which explains how crooked ones won't be touched. They will get away with a lot, but the straight one will be continuously hit. Of course, they're the ones with great potential and much is required of them. The Bible says much is expected to those who have more, and to those who have less, not so much. Let's look at how we are going to navigate on the need to cope with the losses. By now, you will realize that he is feeling empty. To fill this void in him, my approach will be, during recreation time, I will gather a few residents who are passionate with games and invite John to introduce new games and teach them how to play. The neighborhood schools send students to visit the elders in the facility. I will arrange to have them visit him alone in the chapel and give him the opportunity to speak with them as a teacher would do in a classroom setting. Doing this repeatedly will give him a sense of teaching and fulfillment that comes with it. With the help of administration and recreation team, we will encourage John to write mock reports by providing him with assignments and deadlines. We will provide him with stationaries. Being a passionate reader and writer, of course, we will provide him a desk and set him up to sit as an administrator. We will also give him privacy for those activities. We will try as much as possible to give him that privacy. How do we fill the void of a firefighter? I will invite members of his fire department that he founded to come and give him a visit. During the visit, I will ask them to bring a station shirt and bunker gear with his name patch to wear. Then we will get him into the fire truck and give him a ride. I will also ask them to set his phone ringtone to that of a pager or incident alarm. This will give him a sense that he has a pager. I will arrange with the department to listen to him telling the story of how they started the department, what he knows, as well as how training has evolved from their time to now. This will give him the sense of belonging as well as authority. How do we fill the void of religion? I will give John pastoral counseling through visits and invitation to our worship. I will also invite him to our Bible or spiritual sessions. Since John is an Anglican, I will reach out to the Anglican priest to bring him Holy Communion as frequently as possible. I will also ask him to guide John into confession and reconciliation with his family members. Together with the priest, the counselor, and the social worker, we will try to connect the family. We will also invite the Anglicans in the community and friends to visit, but I'll be sure to advise them on how to interact with him in his new state of mind and health. The presence of the priest in robe performing Holy Communion and reconciliation sacraments and religious ritual performance will give him sense of spiritual fulfillment. So far, my theological and spiritual approach is proving effective. How do I address potential trauma in me? Every time John talks about his loss of home and state of dysfunctionality, I'm reminded of a crisis that landed me in the same spot. I've personally lost my home, my well-paying administrative job, which led to a mental breakdown and family separation. Whenever John's situation becomes too sensitive to me, I step back and invite a counseling therapist to take over. How do I address John's needs that are beyond my capacity? Through referral. Being cognizant with the fact that I don't have all the answers to John's questions and situation and crisis, I'm constantly checking on and doing referral to the other practitioners. For example, whenever it is evident that he needs his meds, I call the nurses, doctors, psychiatrists, etc. Whenever he presents financial complications with his banking and bill payment, I refer him to the social worker. Friends, so far, my interaction with John in Life Review is proving to be an effective therapy. Thank you, and may God bless you.